Most men believe attraction is built through talking, saying the right thing, explaining themselves clearly, filling every silence. And that belief is exactly why they kill emotional tension without realizing it. Because attraction does not grow from words, it grows from what is left unsaid. There is a form of power that exists before confidence, before charm, before dominance. And that power is silence. Not awkward silence, not forced silence, not playing quiet to look mysterious, but grounded silence. The kind that comes from not needing to speak to hold position. Most men are uncomfortable with silence. The moment conversation slows, they feel pressure. Pressure to perform, pressure to entertain, pressure to explain. And every time they rush to fill space, emotional tension collapses. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Silence is not empty. Silence is information. It communicates comfort with uncertainty. Comfort with uncertainty signals strength. Strength creates attraction. This is why some men can say very little and still feel intense, while others talk constantly and feel forgettable. Emotional tension is not created by stimulation, it is created by restraint. The nervous system responds more strongly to what it cannot immediately resolve. Silence creates unresolved space, and unresolved space pulls attention. Most men misunderstand this completely. They think emotional tension means teasing, flirting, or escalation. Those are tools, but without silence, they don't work, because silence is what gives words weight. Without silence, words become noise. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women do not feel tension when a man is trying to impress them. They feel tension when a man is comfortable not trying. Trying creates predictability. Predictability kills tension. Silence reintroduces unpredictability. Not chaos, but grounded uncertainty. Another deep truth is this: emotional tension is created when a woman feels free to move toward you. Talking too much pulls her toward you emotionally. Silence allows her to move on her own. Movement chosen feels exciting. Movement pulled feels pressured. Another uncomfortable truth is that men who talk too much reveal their emotional position. They reveal investment. They reveal need. They reveal urgency. Urgency kills tension. Silence hides nothing. It simply reveals absence of need. Another layer is pacing. Most men rush conversation because they fear losing momentum. But momentum driven by fear collapses attraction. Emotional tension grows slowly. It needs space. Silence is that space. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence makes most men feel exposed because it removes performance. When you stop talking, you stop performing. And without performance, only presence remains. Presence is what creates attraction. Another dope truth is this: women feel emotional tension when they are not being managed emotionally. Management feels controlling. Silence feels permissive. Permission allows desire to surface. Another layer is emotional self-trust. Men who trust themselves don't rush to fill silence. They assume the moment does not need fixing. That assumption is felt, and it feels safe. Another uncomfortable truth is that silence creates contrast. When you speak less, what you do say lands deeper. Depth comes from scarcity, not from volume. Another realization is that emotional tension cannot exist in constant reassurance. Reassurance collapses uncertainty. Uncertainty fuels attraction. Silence preserves uncertainty. Another deep truth is that silence allows projection. Projection is powerful. When you don't explain yourself, others fill in the gaps, and what they imagine is often stronger than anything you could say. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence makes women more aware of their own emotions. Talking distracts them. Silence amplifies feeling. Another deep truth is this: silence is not something you use, it is something you allow. It comes from being internally settled, from not chasing reaction, from not needing response, from not fearing misinterpretation. Another uncomfortable truth is that men who are afraid of being misunderstood talk too much. Men who trust themselves allow misunderstanding, and misunderstanding keeps tension alive. Another layer is emotional containment. Silence contains emotion instead of spilling it. Contained emotion feels intense. Spilled emotion feels weak. Another realization is that emotional tension increases when a man does not rush to define the moment. Definition ends tension. Silence keeps it alive. Another deep truth is this: silence communicates that you are not trying to get somewhere. You are already somewhere, and that place is stable. Stability creates gravity. Gravity pulls attention. This is why silence feels powerful when it's real and awkward when it's forced. Forced silence is strategy. Real silence is self-trust, and that difference is felt instantly. This is the foundation of emotional tension, not silence as a trick, but silence as a byproduct of inner stillness. And once you understand this, everything about attraction begins to change, because you stop trying to create tension, and you start allowing it to form naturally. And this is only the first layer of how silence becomes power. Once you understand that silence is not absence but presence, the dynamic shifts immediately. Because now you're no longer trying to hold the interaction, you're letting it breathe. Most men speak because they fear losing control of the moment. They believe silence means loss of interest. But silence only feels dangerous to someone who is emotionally dependent on response. To a grounded man, silence is neutral, and neutrality is powerful. Another uncomfortable truth is this: the more a man tries to guide the emotional tone verbally, the less tension exists. Guidance removes uncertainty. Uncertainty fuels attraction. Silence preserves uncertainty without creating insecurity. That balance is rare. Another layer most men don't see is that emotional tension forms when a woman starts tracking you internally, not your words, your pace, your calm, your lack of urgency. When you don't rush to respond, explain, or fill space, her attention turns inward. She starts wondering. Wondering creates tension. Another uncomfortable realization is that talking too much removes imagination. Imagination fuels desire. Silence gives imagination room to operate. This is why some men feel unforgettable after saying very little, and others are forgotten despite saying everything. Another deep truth is this: silence signals that you are not trying to extract emotion. Extraction feels invasive. Silence feels respectful. Respect deepens attraction. Another layer is emotional confidence. Confidence is not loud, it is quiet assurance. A man who is confident does not need to narrate himself. He lets his presence speak. Another uncomfortable truth is that silence exposes emotional imbalance. If you feel pressure, silence amplifies it. If you feel calm, silence amplifies that too. Women are not reacting to silence. They are reacting to what silence reveals. Another layer is emotional pacing. Silence slows the interaction. Slowness allows feelings to register. Fast interactions skip feeling and jump to outcome. Outcome focus kills tension. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence creates polarity. When you don't chase emotional alignment, alignment becomes her choice. Choice intensifies desire. Another deep truth is this: silence signals that you are not trying to extract emotion. Extraction feels invasive. Silence feels respectful. Respect deepens attraction. Another layer is emotional confidence. Confidence is not loud, it is quiet assurance. A man who is confident does not need to narrate himself. He lets his presence speak. Another uncomfortable truth is that silence exposes emotional imbalance. If you feel pressure, silence amplifies it. If you feel calm, silence amplifies that too.
Women are not reacting to silence. They're reacting to what silence reveals. Another layer is emotional pacing. Silence slows the interaction. Slowness allows feelings to register. Fast interactions skip feeling and jump to outcome. Outcome focus kills tension. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence creates polarity. When you don't chase emotional alignment, alignment becomes her choice. Choice intensifies desire. Another deep truth is this: silence allows her to lead emotionally without you surrendering your position. Leadership is not domination, it's stability. Another layer is emotional restraint. Restraint signals self-control. Self-control signals strength. Strength fuels attraction. Another uncomfortable realization is that men who talk constantly are trying to manage perception.
Management collapses authenticity. Authenticity sustains attraction. Another deep truth is that silence removes the need to be interesting. And paradoxically, that makes you more interesting, because interest is felt, not explained. Another layer is emotional contrast. When silence exists between words, those words carry weight. Without silence, words flatten. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence often triggers tests. Women may poke, tease, or challenge when a man is quiet, not to provoke, but to see if the calm is real. Men who react fail. Men who remain centered pass. Another deep truth is this: silence is one of the fastest ways to reveal emotional self-trust. Self-trust is attractive because it removes pressure. Another layer is emotional patience. Patience signals abundance. Abundance signals choice. Choice fuels desire. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence communicates you are not trying to win the moment. Winning collapses tension. Presence sustains it. Another deep truth is that emotional tension is not excitement, it is anticipation. Anticipation requires space. Silence creates that space. Another layer is emotional freedom. Silence gives freedom to the interaction. Freedom allows attraction to move naturally. Another uncomfortable realization is that men who fear boredom talk too much. But boredom is not the enemy. Predictability is. Silence disrupts predictability. Another deep truth is this: silence is powerful only when it is unconcerned. Concern leaks. Leakage kills tension. Another layer is emotional alignment with self. When you are aligned internally, silence feels comfortable. Comfort is contagious. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence does not mean disengagement. It means non-interference. You are allowing the moment to unfold. Another deep truth is that emotional tension cannot survive constant reassurance. Reassurance removes ambiguity. Ambiguity fuels desire. Another layer is emotional observation. Silence allows you to observe instead of perform. Observation creates grounding. Grounding attracts. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence makes reactions visible. When you stop filling space, others fill it emotionally. This reveals interest. Another deep truth is this: silence is one of the clearest signals that you are not emotionally chasing outcome, and not chasing is what creates tension. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first, because it removes your safety net. No words to hide behind, no performance to lean on, only presence. And presence is the foundation of attraction. Once you become comfortable there, emotional tension stops being something you try to create. It becomes something that forms naturally around you. And this is where silence stops being awkward and starts becoming magnetic. Because now it's not a tactic, it's simply who you are when you don't need to say anything at all. As silence becomes comfortable for you, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You stop trying to generate emotion, and emotion begins to generate itself. This is where most men misunderstand tension. They think tension comes from stimulation, from saying something bold, from teasing, from escalation. But stimulation excites briefly. Tension pulls. and pull only exists when there is space to move into. Silence creates that space. Another uncomfortable truth is this: emotional tension forms when a woman feels that you are not trying to direct her feelings. Direction feels controlling. Control creates resistance. Silence removes direction. And when direction disappears, curiosity appears. Another deep layer is this: silence allows a woman to feel her own desire without interruption. Talking interrupts feeling. Silence amplifies it. This is why men who talk less often feel more intense, not because they are doing less, but because they are interrupting less. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence reveals emotional congruency. If your words and internal state don't match, silence exposes it. This is why silence feels dangerous to men who are performing. Performance needs noise. Presence does not. Another deep truth is this: emotional tension increases when a man does not emotionally chase resolution. Resolution closes loops. Open loops create pull. Silence keeps loops open. Another layer is emotional timing. Most men rush to respond the moment they feel something. They feel attraction, so they act. They feel tension, so they relieve it. Relief kills tension. The man who allows tension to exist lets it grow. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence is not passive. It is active restraint. Restraint signals control. Control signals safety. Safety allows desire to deepen instead of retreat. Another deep truth is this: silence allows polarity to remain intact. When you talk too much, polarity collapses into sameness. Sameness kills desire. Difference sustains it. Another layer is emotional confidence. Confidence is trusting that nothing needs fixing, that the moment is sufficient, that you are sufficient. That trust is felt immediately. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence removes emotional bargaining. When you talk less, you stop negotiating attraction. Negotiation implies scarcity. Scarcity repels desire. Another deep truth is this: silence lets your pace become the reference point, and whoever sets the pace holds the emotional center. Men who rush give that center away. Men who are unhurried hold it naturally. Another layer is emotional leadership without effort. Leadership is not direction, it is steadiness. Silence communicates steadiness without instruction. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence makes emotional reactions visible. If she leans in, you notice. If she pulls back, you notice. But you don't react, and non-reaction is powerful. Another deep truth is that silence allows attraction to feel voluntary. Voluntary desire feels intoxicating. Forced desire feels uncomfortable. Another layer is emotional selectivity. When you speak less, your words feel chosen. Chosen words carry weight. Weight creates impact. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence reduces emotional noise. Noise confuses feeling. Quiet clarifies it. Another deep truth is this: emotional tension is not loud. It is quiet pressure. Pressure created by possibility. Possibility requires space. Silence provides it. Another layer is emotional self-respect. Silence communicates that you respect your own presence. You don't rush to justify it. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence reveals whether a man is comfortable being felt. Many men talk to avoid being felt because being felt means being seen. Silence allows that exposure, and exposure with composure is magnetic. Another deep truth is that silence often invites projection. Projection is powerful because it fills gaps. When you don't define yourself constantly, others define you. And imagination often creates stronger attraction than explanation ever could. Another layer is emotional grounding during pauses. Pauses are natural. Men who rush through them signal discomfort. Men who sit in them signal ease. Ease attracts. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence removes emotional chasing disguised as engagement. Engagement without need feels attractive. Engagement with need feels heavy. Silence removes need. Another deep truth is this: silence makes emotional tension self-sustaining. Once it forms, it doesn't need maintenance. It only needs non-interference. Another layer is emotional maturity. Maturity is knowing when not to speak, not because you can't, but because you don't need to. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence does not mean withholding. It means allowing emotion, allowing curiosity, allowing desire to move at its own pace. Another deep truth is that silence stops attraction from being rushed. Rushed attraction collapses. Unrushed attraction deepens. Another layer is emotional presence. Presence is felt most clearly in silence because there is nothing else to hide behind. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence creates tension because it removes certainty. Certainty ends pursuit. Uncertainty sustains it. Another deep truth is this: silence is not about saying less, it's about needing less. And needlessness is the foundation of attraction. This is where emotional tension stops being something you try to manufacture. It becomes something that forms naturally when you are grounded enough to let moments breathe. And once you reach this level, silence stops feeling like a gap. It starts feeling like a current, a quiet pull, one that doesn't need words to be felt. And there is still one deeper layer to this, because silence doesn't just create tension, it reveals who actually holds it. At this point, silence begins to do something most men never experience. It shifts who is emotionally leaning. In most interactions, men lean first. They ask more, they explain more, they invest more. Silence reverses that. Not through withdrawal, but through non-chasing presence. When you stop filling space, the other person feels it, not as pressure, but as openness. And openness invites movement. Another uncomfortable truth is this: whoever speaks to relieve tension is not holding power, they're responding to it. The man who allows tension to exist without fixing it becomes the emotional reference point. And reference points attract. Another layer most men never notice is this: silence causes emotional weight to shift onto her side of the interaction. Not because you are manipulating, but because you are no longer carrying the interaction for both of you. When that happens, she begins investing emotionally, asking questions, leaning in, filling space. That investment is what creates desire. Another uncomfortable realization is that emotional tension collapses when a man feels responsible for how the moment feels. Responsibility creates management. Management kills tension. Silence removes management. Another deep truth is this: silence communicates that you trust the moment, and trust is contagious. Another layer is emotional equilibrium. When you stop talking to regulate emotion, equilibrium forms naturally. Natural equilibrium feels grounded. Grounded interactions feel intense without effort. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence exposes who needs who more. The one who rushes to fill space is seeking regulation. The one who waits is self-regulated. Self-regulation is attractive. Another deep truth is that silence allows attraction to form without being named. Naming attraction collapses mystery. Mystery sustains tension. Another layer is emotional discipline. Discipline is not control, it is restraint. Restraint communicates strength. Strength allows desire to relax instead of defend. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence stops you from over-validating. Over-validation cheapens connection. Selective validation deepens it. Another deep truth is this: silence allows emotional reactions to surface without being interrupted. If she feels curiosity, it grows. If she feels desire, it intensifies. Talking too much interrupts those processes. Another layer is emotional balance. Silence prevents emotional imbalance caused by oversharing. Oversharing removes polarity. Silence preserves it. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence removes emotional bargaining. No, if I give this, I get that. No hidden transactions, just presence. Presence feels honest. Honesty sustains attraction. Another deep truth is this: silence allows emotional reactions to surface without being interrupted. If she feels curiosity, it grows. If she feels desire, it intensifies. Talking too much interrupts those processes. Another layer is emotional balance. Silence prevents emotional imbalance caused by oversharing. Oversharing removes polarity. Silence preserves it. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence removes emotional bargaining. No, if I give this, I give that. No hidden transactions, just presence. Presence feels honest. Honesty sustains attraction. Another deep truth is this: silence makes the interaction feel uncontrolled. Uncontrolled does not mean chaotic, it means organic. Organic attraction lasts longer than manufactured attraction. Another layer is emotional maturity. Mature men do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. They are comfortable in stillness. Stillness feels powerful. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence allows the other person to reveal themselves. Talking blocks revelation. Silence invites it. Another deep truth is this: emotional tension increases when a man does not rush to be understood. Needing to be understood creates urgency. Urgency kills tension. Another layer is emotional authority. Authority is not volume. It is composure. Composure is most visible in silence. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence stops attraction from being rushed into labels. Labels and tension. Undefined space keeps it alive. Another deep truth is this: silence creates psychological depth. Depth comes from layers. Layers require time. Talking too much collapses layers. Another layer is emotional steadiness during ambiguity. Ambiguity is uncomfortable for men who seek certainty. Men who tolerate it feel strong. Strength attracts. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence removes performative masculinity. No proving, no showing, just being. Being is enough. Another deep truth is that silence allows attraction to form without pressure. Pressure suffocates desire. Freedom feeds it. Another layer is emotional presence without demand. Demand creates resistance. Presence invites movement. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence often triggers vulnerability. Not because you asked for it, but because safety was felt. Safety allows opening. Another deep truth is this: silence gives you leverage without effort. Not leverage over her, leverage over yourself. And self-control is the root of attraction. Another layer is emotional grounding during moments of intensity. Intensity tempts men to talk. Restraint keeps intensity alive. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence allows desire to choose you, not comply with you. Choice is intoxicating. Compliance is dull. Another deep truth is this: silence reveals that you are not afraid of losing the moment. Fear of loss leaks. Silence shows acceptance. Acceptance feels powerful. Another layer is emotional non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean lack of care. It means freedom from outcome. Freedom from outcome sustains tension. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence teaches you patience. Patience is the soil attraction grows in. Another deep truth is this: silence does not create tension by itself. It amplifies what already exists.
If you are grounded, it amplifies strength. If you are anxious, it amplifies weakness. That is why silence is honest, and honesty is attractive. This is where emotional tension becomes unmistakable. Not because you did something, but because you stopped interfering. And when you stop interfering, attraction organizes itself naturally. And there is still one final layer that completes this understanding. Because silence does more than create tension. It determines who controls the emotional direction of the interaction.
At the deepest level, silence determines who leads emotionally. Not by force, not by dominance, but by stability. The person who can remain grounded without filling space sets the emotional direction. Because they are not being pulled, they are anchored. Most men think emotional leadership comes from initiative, from talking first, from steering conversation, from pushing momentum. But true emotional leadership comes from not needing to steer. It comes from trusting that the moment does not require fixing. And that trust is felt instantly. Another uncomfortable truth is this: the man who breaks silence to relieve discomfort is surrendering emotional position. The man who allows silence to exist is holding it. This is why silence feels so powerful when it's real. It exposes who is regulated and who is not. Another realization is that emotional tension peaks when a woman feels she cannot predict you emotionally. Not because you are inconsistent, but because you are self-referenced. Your reactions do not depend on hers. Your calm does not depend on validation. Your presence does not depend on outcome. That independence is intoxicating. Another deep truth is this: silence communicates that you are not afraid of losing the moment. Fear of loss is what drives over talking. When fear disappears, silence becomes natural. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence makes desire feel voluntary. Not earned, not negotiated, not pulled. Chosen. And chosen desire feels far stronger than persuaded desire. Another deep truth is that emotional tension only survives around men who do not try to own it. Ownership collapses polarity. Allowance sustains it. Another realization is that silence is not about power over someone else. It is about power over yourself. The power to not react, the power to not fill space, the power to let emotion move without interference. And self-control is the most attractive signal there is. Another uncomfortable truth is that men who fear being forgotten talk too much. Men who trust their presence do not. Presence does not need reinforcement. Another deep realization is that silence stops attraction from becoming performative. No lines, no tactics, no tricks. Just grounded being. Another truth is this: when silence is paired with calm eye contact, relaxed posture, and unhurried movement, it becomes unmistakable. Not because you are doing something, but because nothing inside you is rushing. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence reveals emotional abundance. Abundant men do not scramble for attention. They allow attention to come or go. That freedom is felt immediately. Another deep truth is that silence does not create attraction by itself. It reveals attraction that already exists. Talking often hides it. Silence exposes it. Another realization is that emotional tension dies the moment you try to control it. Control creates resistance. Resistance kills desire. Another deep truth is this: silence teaches you patience, and patience is the trait that separates men who feel intense from men who feel forgettable. Another uncomfortable realization is that silence cannot be faked. Forced silence feels awkward. Real silence feels grounded, and women can tell the difference instantly. Another deep truth is that silence works only when it comes from inner stillness. Stillness cannot be acted. It must be lived. Another realization is that silence does not mean disengagement. It means confidence without narration. Another uncomfortable truth is that men who master silence stop needing validation. And the moment validation is no longer needed, attraction deepens. Another deep truth is this: silence gives you time. Time allows emotion to surface. Emotion is what attraction feeds on. Another realization is that silence allows tension to remain unresolved, and unresolved tension is what keeps interest alive. Another uncomfortable truth is that men who fear awkwardness never experience intensity, because intensity requires risk, and silence is a risk that only grounded men can take. Another deep truth is this: silence is power not because it is quiet, but because it is unmoved. Unmoved by outcome, unmoved by reaction, unmoved by uncertainty. And unmoved men feel rare. Now, if this video helped you understand how emotional tension is created without words and why silence is one of the most powerful forces in attraction, there is one video you should watch next. Because silence only works when you are not making the mistake that destroys attraction in the first place. That's exactly what I break down in my video called Why Women Lose Interest Fast, Male Mistake Explained. That video shows how men unknowingly kill attraction by leaning, chasing, and reacting, and why silence only works when your emotional position is grounded. What's that next? Because once you understand both how tension is created and how it is destroyed, attraction stops feeling mysterious. It becomes a natural response to presence. Not what you say, not how much you talk, but how solid you remain when you don't need to say anything at all. That is where silence becomes power.